Human overpopulation.
What is the issue and history, environmental social impacts, debates and disagreements, and possible solutions? According to a joint study done by the United Nations and Worldometer, the global population reached 7.8 billion people in November of 2020. While many of the Earth's resources are finite, there are also renewable resources such as timber, clean water, air, healthy soils, and fish consumed for food. However, our demands are so great that according to the Global Footprint Network, we are now using those resources at almost twice the rate that the Earth can renew them. That rate has increased continually since the 1970s, and unless things change, we will require 3 Earths to supply our needs by 2050. Some people believe that greater efficiencies in the extraction, production, and use of resources means we will use less of them. There is no evidence, however, to support that theory. A study done by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in 2017 evaluated the use of raw materials, such as crude oil and silicone, and found that greater efficiencies led to price reductions, making commodities more affordable and therefore increasing their demand and usage. These 6 graphs, sourced by the World Wildlife Foundation, show an upward trend not only in the world population, but also in carbon dioxide levels, freshwater use, fertilizer consumption, marine fish capture, and tropical forest loss. It is evident that as the global population grows, so do the levels of other wasteful practices. The United Nations International Resources Panel has projected that resource use per person will be 71% higher than today in 2050.
It took several centuries for the human population to touch 1 billion people, but it has since grown rapidly, multiplying 7 times in the past 2 centuries as a result of progress in science and technology and medical advancements. This leads to overpopulation, where the human population rises to an extent that cannot be successfully sustained. The perils of overpopulation have long been discussed, with Thomas Malthus publishing his work in 1798. He stated that populations grow in a geometric sequence while food production increases in an arithmetic sequence, leading to a shortage of food. As the population approaches the food production limits, natural disasters will become more frequent, leading to a fall in the population. Thomas Malthus's work paved the way for a discussion about the carrying capacity, which is the maximum number of individuals of a given species that an area's resources can sustain indefinitely without significantly depleting or degrading those resources. Ecologists increasingly promoted carrying capacity to bring awareness to population control, beginning with the publication of U.S. ecologist William Walk's 1948 book, Road to Survival. He built his arguments around what he called a bioequation and concluded that all but North America and Antarctica had already exceeded their carrying capacities, as evidenced by poverty, malnutrition, soil erosion, and other forms of environmental degradation. Our knowledge into the ramifications of an exponentially increasing population increases as more people research the issue. However, the red flags are already visible. However, according to Ehrlich, it is the environment, not only the food supply, that plays a crucial role in the growth of the human population. Ehrlich's idea suggests that the human population is moving rapidly toward complete environmental collapse as privileged people use up or pollute a number of environmental resources such as water and air. He advocated for the goal of zero population growth, in which the number of people entering a population through birth or immigration is equal to the number of people leaving it via death or emigration. While support for this concept is still mixed, it is considered a possible solution to global overpopulation. In 2017, Lafuite, Mazancourt, and Lauro modeled a change in the human population as a function of technological advancement and biodiversity. The model emphasized the dependence of people on biodiversity and ecosystem services, which ultimately impact the agricultural production that humans require. They concluded that technology has both positive and negative influences on the human population, such that greater technological advancements in the agricultural materials goods sector often leads to declining biodiversity, which has a negative impact on human well-being. However, Technology can also act as a proxy for improved social well-being, like improved healthcare and better education, which improves chances of survival.
The World Wildlife Foundation has generated graphs showing trends of rapid increase in world population, and this correlates directly to the rise of CO2 levels. Human overpopulation can also be named as the #1 cause of the destruction of large bodies of fresh water on Earth, such as lakes, rivers, and seas. The growing demand for clean water will also cause catastrophic levels of strain on nations which have already been struggling with access to clean water, such as Eritrea, Uganda, Ethiopia, and others, where up to 80% of the population lacks basic water services. The depletion of Earth's natural rainforests and wetlands can be attributed to the current growing rate of vegetation removal, logging, and deforestation. The need of land for agriculture, building houses, schooling, and infrastructure also contributes to the growing loss of biodiversity and the extinction of various species. As the global population grows, there is an increased demand of energy sources such as oil, coal, and firewood, which then causes an increase in pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, and the global carbon footprint. Population growth simultaneously increases the number of mouths we will need to feed in the coming decades, while also threatening food output through climate change, ocean acidification, and other global ecological stressors. The stress on necessary resources and difficulty in accessing a consistent supply of services like food, water, and energy because of overpopulation therefore results in a diminished quality of life. According to a Harvard study, over the next 40 years, 97% of the 2.3 billion projected population increase will be in developing regions, with nearly half, 49%, only in Africa. Countries in sub-Saharan Africa and Southern Asia are already under great stress and will not be able to withstand a population growth. Populations in these countries already suffer from inadequate and poor diets and often opt for poor living conditions to survive. Increased levels of illnesses and diseases and the need for treatments puts pressure on economies. In countries like Uganda, Nigeria, and Bangladesh that'll see doubling and tripling populations, this is an incredibly dire situation. It is important to remember that overpopulation is not the only cause for concern. Overpopulation plus rising unemployment, living costs, and crime rates will put countries in catastrophic positions. More than 800 million people currently do not get enough food to meet their daily nutritional needs. People go hungry not because there is insufficient food, but because the global economic system distributes it unfairly. The number of people suffering from hunger has actually increased in recent decades due to development progress not keeping up with rapid population growth. Every extra mouth to feed puts more pressure on our food supply that is already under threat from multiple factors, including shortage of fresh water, soil depletion, decimated populations of insect pollinators, and climate change. The UN currently projects that we will need 70% more food by 2050. Increasing agricultural production comes at a cost to nature, however. Habitat loss and exploitation are the two most significant threats to biodiversity. Currently, 80% of extinction threats to animals, including mammals and birds, are due to agriculture. An MIT study concluded that nearly 5 billion people will live in water-stressed regions by 2050. The United Nations has calculated that water shortages as a result of climate change could displace hundreds of millions of people by 2030. Regional variations in water availability are extreme, but many of the world's poorest regions and those which have high population growth are among those with the shortest supply.
Despite the countless known effects, many continue to oppose the view that overpopulation is an issue in our world today. Most of the people who disagree with the severity of overpopulation are in developed countries, where the effects are not as commonly witnessed, leading to the belief that as populations are aging, in order to support the economy and workforce, we need to have more children. Some believe that the population explosion is over, and growth is predicted to discontinue. But according to the United Nations, the global population will stand between 9.4 and 12.7 billion in 2100. This projects that an unsustainable number of people will continue to be added to our planet. Some also argue that causes of scarcity and hunger are poverty, conflict, natural disasters, and overexploitation, not overpopulation. However, all of these other causes are in fact intensified due to there being an unsustainable number of humans on our finite planet. Another argument is that environmental damage is about overconsumption, not population, and consumption in developed countries must be significantly reduced in order to live more sustainably. Although we cannot ignore that a decrease in consumers being added to the world population is another way of reducing overall consumption.
To improve conditions and ease the problem of overpopulation, it is necessary to get population growth in control. Paul Ehrlich, University biology professor, confounded that it is not that humans should stop having babies, but rather we should stop having more babies than we want. When women have control over their fertility, through education, contraception, and improved women's rights, birth rates inevitably go down. On the other hand, the structural change approach to reduce birth rates by the one-child policy in China has long-term negative effects. The first solution is women empowerment. This approach has been proven to be an effective way to reduce birth rates, as it has been proven that fertility rates have been brought down quickly and substantially in many parts of the world, like South Korea, through ethical and positive measures such as lifting people out of poverty, providing good education for all, and providing universal, high-quality, and modern family planning. Family planning and efficient birth control can help women make their own reproductive choices. Open dialogue on abortion and voluntary sterilization should be seen when talking about overpopulation. In addition, educated women generally have fewer children than uneducated women, as they have a better understanding of sex education and birth control. Although this approach takes place over a long period of time, there are fewer negative outcomes in the long run, and societies become more advanced and improved as a result. On the other hand, there is China's one-child policy, which has not been proven as effective and instead has a greater fallout of more issues present in society. In 1979, even though birth rates had begun to decline in 1960s from 6 children per family to 2.75, the one-child policy was introduced in China, which further decreased the average births to 1.6 in 2016. This policy unfortunately has some serious consequential damages that will last for several generations. Nations which use the one-child policy approach often forced abortions and sterilizations, violated human rights, and caused detrimental effects to one's mental and physical health. Unfortunately, there is no easy solution to overpopulation. However, it is a global issue which, by gradual changes and improvements of conditions, can be successfully confronted.